Hey, welcome back to episode 3. We're going to be talking about why my client hit 27K in commission last month. And you're probably thinking, holy crap, that's a fair amount of money. And to be fair, yeah, it is. And the full context of that we'll go into today. Specifically, some of the major things that changed for him, some of the results that he was experiencing at the start, and then some key takeaways that you can use in your own business, whether you're a high ticket salesperson or whether you're a small business owner, that are counterintuitive, that you probably won't hear anywhere else. Right? The kind of sales training that we do is out of the box, if you will. So I'm going to break down behind the scenes of one of my one-on-one clients, how he got here, how this is not actually the first time that he's done over $20,000 in commission. He's done this twice now, and some of the key lessons that got him there, or some of the key breakthroughs. So sit down, grab your coffee, grab your snack, whatever. We're going to have a good chat today. All right, so let's get into today's lesson. So when I'm working with a client like this, or the circumstances that the client came in to see me, is they knew that they had another level of performance or another level of potential. This seems to be a common theme with these clients that blow up their results, and specifically salespeople that are on high ticket offers or even business owners. And it feels like there's this next level of potential. There's this next level of, I just can't quite tap into it. And I don't know what it is, but I can't quite put my finger on what's exactly holding me back. And it almost feels like you're this loaded arrow that's ready to shoot, but you can't loose the bowstring. And it's like, I just don't quite understand what is holding me back from this potential. And one of the things that I coach in a one-on-one setting is not so much the skill set. And I say this to everyone that books in with me. I say, look, it's a mix of skill set, but it's also internal work as well. Because if it was just skill set, there's plenty of information, there's plenty of strategy already out there. Like you can jump onto YouTube and you can find a video, and that video will teach you exactly how to close the deals. So if the information's out there, then why are we not executing? And so the work that I do is we focus on specifically, why doesn't the prospect want to be successful? Which you might be thinking, hang on, Caleb, that just sounds ridiculous. Like, of course I want to be successful. Of course they want to be successful. And this is where I want to introduce you to the first concept called secondary gains, but also another concept called the river of uncertainty. And one of the things that I've noticed over the last 9 years of working with high performers is the next level of performance is not often locked behind a strategy or a new way of doing something. Most of the time, the prospects that I've worked with, they already know what they need to do, but there's some kind of sabotage that's existing behind the curtain that is stopping them from actually executing. And what we sort of know about this is what we call a secondary gain. So in the coaching world, we talk about there's the primary gain of doing something, and then there's the secondary gain of doing something which is hidden. It's not immediately obvious. And one of the most common secondary gain is that someone doesn't have to cross the river of uncertainty. What the heck do I mean by river of uncertainty? So behind every new action, whatever action you're taking towards a specific goal, you have to risk a degree of uncertainty. And in that uncertainty is a range of emotions that feel unfamiliar, uncomfortable, potentially even scary. So let's say, for example, if you remember the first time you got into business or the first time you put yourself out there, the river uncertainty that we had to cross was like the judgment from others. We would be worried about what the other people think about us. So we had to cross that river of uncertainty, dealing with that degree of potential judgment in order to get to the other side, in order to achieve our particular outcome. Now, as we get more successful, that river uncertainty gets a little bit more nuanced. And one of the things that we have to recognize is, what are we potentially scared of losing, or what is potentially risky about taking this next level or action? Now, in the case of this client, it seems like a strange question to ask. If my income doubled from $10,000 in commission to $27,000 in commission, what is scary or uncertainty? What secondary gains are there that exist for me not wanting to do that? Because that seems obvious. But now, if we play this out and we actually dig into what it was for this client, is there was a conflict internally here about what success meant versus what his purpose was. So this client had two very different paths. There was this financial success path that could be achieved through sales, and there was this personal meaning path that was a completely different direction. And so the secondary gain for this client around not making more money was the further I go down the money path, the more diverged I am from the meaning path. So for him, if I make more money, it means I do less of my purpose and meaning, which is a really good reason to keep him the same, to keep him stuck, if you will. And this is an example of the nuance of what holds someone back from the next level of performance is it's a positive intent disguised as a problem, or sorry, a problem disguised as a positive intent. And so what we had to do is I had to work with this client to help blend these two together, at least from a subconscious level, at least from a level below the surface, for him to connect the dots, or for his subconscious to connect the dots, that actually these paths wind back in together and they feed each other. Most of the time when we become aware of the conflict can tend to resolve itself. It can be that fast, but the skill is actually in taking the time to sit and ask ourselves the question, is there any particular reason why I wouldn't want this? Is not achieving this serving me in some sense? Do I gain some kind of payoff by not achieving that thing, by not crossing that river of uncertainty? This also lends itself to a concept called upper limits. This was in a book by a guy called Gary Hendricks. I believe it's called The Giant Leap or The Big Leap. I'm sorry, Gary. But he talks about how we have this upper limit. And I imagine the best way to think about this is a thermometer. And the thermometer has a max temperature. If it blows past that temperature, the thermometer would explode because there's nowhere for it to go. And so when it comes to performance, especially for salespeople, and especially in money or a business milestone, what I've noticed is we have these self-imposed upper limits, or these glass ceilings on our potential. And when we get close to that upper limit, to that ceiling, what we actually do is we start finding convenient reasons to not continue down that path, to overcomplicate it. Procrastination sets in, a lack of motivation sets in. We start thinking that, this no longer fulfills me, or things randomly start breaking in other areas, like maybe the relationship gets tension, or maybe our health takes a hit. Whenever we reach the top of this thermometer, whenever we reach these upper limits, we want to explore what is the secondary gain to moving past that. And so this is the key coaching breakthrough that I had with this client to move him from like $10,000 in commission to $27,000 was we needed to look at and knock on the upper limit. What was that upper limit? What did it mean if he moved through there? Were there any secondary gains keeping him from actually bypassing that? And this happened to me as well. Back in 2016, I just left New Zealand and I had a pretty good job. I was earning probably about $80,000 plus company car, which was in New Zealand economy where I was living. That was great. And I remember moving over to Australia and I got more money. So I had a salary around 90,000. The commission was much higher. The opportunity to earn was about $130,000 per year. And I got super. So that's our version of like retirement saving, which was maybe 10%. So another, 10 grand on top of that. So all in all, it worked out at around 150,000 in potential opportunity to earn and benefits, if you will. And what happened when I went over there was that was right at the top of my upper limit of what I was comfortable earning. So I was comfortable around 80,000. Like I had bought a house, was paying a mortgage, all that kind of thing, and that was pretty normal. But put me in a world in which I have the opportunity to earn 150, 160, to double my income ceiling. I actually hit my upper limit. And one of the interesting things that happened when I had hit that upper limit was I decided to do something called a salary sacrifice or a novated lease. So a novated lease is where you can sacrifice part of your salary pre-tax to lower your taxable income. But basically it lowers your potential income. And I was super uncomfortable earning that extra money, that extra $20,000 to $30,000 a year, that I created scenarios in which I created debt. I brought a $60,000 Mercedes on a novated lease. I did all of these things to bring myself under, to bring my temperature down from the top of the thermometer down underneath to feel more comfortable. And this is what I would say is probably one of the sneaky things holding a lot of people back from their potential, is they don't realize that they have these unconscious upper limits that are stopping them from achieving what they want to achieve. That, combined with these secondary gains that protect them from crossing that river of uncertainty, that river of uncertainty is super scary because it's full of a whole lot of different emotions and fears and gains that we have to be okay risking in order to get to the other side. And as we become more and more and more successful, our degree for risk tolerance probably becomes less and less. At least I've noticed in myself, especially since becoming a father. I've noticed that my risk tolerance level have become less and less. And as we've become more comfortable, and this is quite an interesting paradox, where there's a book called Rookie Smarts that talks about the reason why people brand new to an industry can often succeed so quickly is because they don't know enough to have that indecision. That because they are so green, they can just take one idea and run with it because they don't know any better. But as you become a veteran and you know more and more and more, there's more variables, there's more risks, there's more things that could go wrong. So you don't have the smarts of a rookie. You have different problems entirely. So I thought that'd be an interesting share today. Like, this is just one of the key lessons behind how my client went from, and obviously there was some strategic stuff as well, right? Like we fixed up the salesperson objection handling. But I would say the less common one that we actually talked about, one of the behavioral ones that was massive and critical to his success, and we'll probably do an interview sometime in the podcast with him so you can actually see that it is legit. But I'll bring him in and we can talk about it and in his words. But this is what I believe was the biggest difference that made the difference, is understanding that river of uncertainty, secondary gains, and upper limits. So if you liked this style of stuff, of this kind of podcasty, not traditional sales, more of the soft skills, please let us know. Give us a rating, share it with someone that you care about, or just drop a comment below. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.